1 month ago, I made a financial decision that would drastically change my financial future, which was already pretty much laid out for me, and go into a future where I had no idea where my money would be coming from. A long time we have been taught, or perhaps we've defaulted to the idea that if a decision is right in our lives, it should guarantee certainty. But I think what I have been learning in this time is that certainty can many times lead us to make decisions out of fear and not out of what we actually want and what is aligned for our specific lives. I have personally always made decisions in my life that made zero sense externally, but made total sense internally. And I want to walk you through my story and the cues and the prompts and the feelings that have came up when I've made these major decisions and how I've never really come out of them disappointed. So, hello, welcome back to Getting Your Driving, where agency is the driving theme of this podcast. But I also think that something that isn't discussed enough about agency is that it's not a confidence level. It's really a practice. It's something that you have to keep on applying as you go through things. And yeah, I think all the major life decisions that I will go over today are decisions that were hard, but they ultimately placed me in the driver's seat of my life. And I want that for you. I really want that for you as well. So let's get into it. So I am in a new setup today. I feel like I'm trying all kinds of new setups. I'm using Riverside to record this, which I'm excited about. And as always, I'm still kind of looking over to my computer for my script because I do want to get better at making my episodes where I'm only looking at the camera and I'm just sitting here talking. And yeah, it's kind of like trial and error because I'm also sorting out the microphone and how I feel about it. I noticed that in my last videos, it sounded a bit like there was all this space, which I think because the room was empty, there was. So hopefully this comes out better. But see, I don't know now if I want to like hold the microphone here the whole time. Let's just see. Maybe I need a different microphone. No, what am I saying? A different microphone? No. So, anyways, yeah, new things, new setups, but ultimately, hopefully it's good. I'm in my new room, in my new house. And yeah. So if I'm looking over, I'm sorry. But the first thing that I want to make crystal clear getting into this is that you really need to get over other people's perceptions of what you're doing, especially those closest to you. Because the decision that I just made, everybody had a very different perception of what I was doing. But, at the end of the day, I'm the only one that knows the best thing for me. So, what I kind of want to do is I want to go through major pivots in my life and major decisions that I had to make and kind of the patterns behind those decisions that I think will help people. So, my first major decision in life was choosing what college to go to and what to study. I think this is super common for most Americans and most people in general, right? Like, I don't think it's talked about enough how pressuring it is to pick something for the rest of your life. Hopefully, within the next 10 years, that really changes and you aren't going into this decision feeling like you have to pick something for the rest of your life. But, anyways, so here it was like April and March in my senior year of high school, which is already cutting it pretty close to when you're supposed to like know what school you're going to. I just knew my interest for a long time was fashion. Like I always really did like clothes. I even started an Instagram account on it. Didn't go anywhere. Kind of realized with humility that fashion I don't know if it's gonna be the main thing. Anyways, but for some reason, I just really didn't wanna go to fashion school. Like, my dad and mom were even supportive. They had took, like, a recent trip to New York City, and they were like, "We checked out FIT. We're gonna bring you back these brochures, this information, and if this is what you know that you really want, we wanna help you." And I think they were saying that because they knew I did have, like, an eye and a knack for it, and maybe they felt, like, good and confident about sending me off to do that. I don't know, but I don't know, like something in me knew I really do love fashion, but I just don't think I want to like go to school for it. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I end up going to my piano lesson that I went to every week for 1 year, for 10 years, because my parents made me do piano lessons. And I remember in there, Miss Connie, who was my teacher, she started going on about her sister who was a speech pathologist. And I remember thinking, "What's that?" Like, I asked her, like, "What's that?" And she kinda, like, explained a little bit to me, and I don't know, all I know is that it felt like a light bulb went off in my head because I was so intrigued. I was so intrigued. I went home, I researched, what is a speech pathologist? Oh, wait a minute, what is this? Sorry. Because I had never heard of this profession. I was kind of like, how can it be that I've never heard of a profession? But everything I discovered about it, it just seemed so cool. I think that day, if I'm remembering clearly, I made my decision. I was like, this is what I want to go do. And I remember thinking, Maria, what? Like, there was just a part of me that was like, this is a science based major. You don't know much about this. Even like my family and my friends were kind of like, okay, you want to do that? Like, well, okay. I guess if you want to, like, most everybody was, like, supportive, but at the same time, I could tell everybody was a bit like, "What is she doing?" The best way I can explain it to you, and the pattern was that I loved it, it piqued my curiosity, and for the 4 years that I had to study towards this program, I had so much energy. Like, this was a limited access program at the university that I went to, so I could have done like my first, because your first 2 years in the US are like basic prerequisite classes. And then it's usually your final 2 years that are more toward the actual major that you want. And those first 2 years, I was technically taking a gamble because I could apply to the program and not get in. And then where would that lead me? Because I had to take specific prerequisites. But again, as soon as my teacher mentioned it, I loved it. It fully piqued my curiosity and it gave me energy. Like it really, really did. And it was almost amazing to see as like an observer of myself because I was like, why am I so into this? But like I was, and it challenged me in such a healthy way. I adored my cohorts. I adored the girls who were in it with me. They were all so motivated. They wanted to help people. Like it was just a really great 4 years. So again, the pattern was loved it, piqued my curiosity, gave me energy and really challenged me in a healthy way. And it all flowed. Thing that I do feel is an important detail in this story is that I chose to go to community college before I transferred over to a 4 year institution. And the community college I had chosen to go to that one because it was far away enough from home and it was going to be close to the school my best friend was going to at the time. We ended up breaking up as best friends. Can you believe that? That's another story for another time. And that's why I chose the Sturt Community College. And I didn't know that very few schools in the entire United States of America offered this speech pathology degree as a bachelor's. Most programs had a master's degree, but not a bachelor's. And I didn't know that the 4 year institution that I wanted to transfer to after the community college was one of the very few schools in the entire country that offered this as a bachelor's. I don't think I became aware of this like very important fact or thought about it until like 6 months or a year in. And then I remember going on to the school's website and I was like, oh my gosh, they have a bachelor's. And I remember thinking this was such an important detail to know. I didn't know it, but somehow the school that I pretty much randomly chose for my friend was one of the schools that offered this as a bachelor's. Like it just felt like aligned. It felt like it flowed until the final stage of the patterns that I'd gone through where it didn't flow. Oh, this was now March 2022. I was going to be graduating in May of 2022. And when I tell you that final semester, I was so depleted, wasn't like I was using every fiber of my being to still be interested in this major. And I remember everybody was so excited, like grad school was coming up, and all of a sudden now I was having these doubts. I was like, frick would I go to grad school? I've never even really been an academic person anyway. I'm not in debt now, and I definitely don't want to get into debt for something that is now draining my energy. Like the best way to put it is all of a sudden it drained my energy and it didn't excite me and it didn't pique my curiosity and it felt totally unaligned. But remember, I had just put 4 years of hard work into this major and I genuinely like was so excited about it. And I just remember feeling like this just is not aligned anymore. And it really started coming clear when the applications about who got in and who didn't get in were coming in at the end of the year. I applied to 5 grad schools. All the girls in my cohort were applying. We were all applying together. And these places let you know when you get in around the same time. So I remember the very first school I heard back from was USF. And I'll never forget, I opened the email and the first thing I saw was, "We regret to inform you." As soon as I read that, I had this voice in me go, "This is no longer the path for you, so don't even worry about it." And I felt such an inexplicable internal peace. I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. But of course, externally, freaking out. I was embarrassed to tell the girls in my cohort that I wasn't getting in. By the way, I applied to 5 schools because when you're doing a master's, it's much harder than applying for a bachelor's. Like you only can pick a select few. It costs a lot of money. There's so many things that they ask you for when you're doing this applying process. So I only chose 5. Got rejected from every single one of them. And all my friends got in. All of them. And of course, like externally, I was like, well, if I don't do this, what the frick am I gonna do? And I didn't know. There was like no clear signs ahead of me. I remember that spring break, I actually spent it with my mom and we went to Las Vegas to visit one of her friends. How she got me into that, I don't know, because it ended up I did not want to go on that trip at all. And I fought her so hard, but I ended up going to make her happy. And I ended up falling because we went skiing and I ended up tearing my ACL, which meant I was going to be in pain the next year and have surgery. Anyways, don't do what you don't want to do, folks. And I just remember being on the airplane being like, "Mom, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do?" But again, the biggest clue that this was just no longer the right path for me was no more energy and it didn't feel aligned with the truth. And even though I had no idea what it meant, I had so much internal peace, which leads me to my second major life decision, which was made basically right after this, right? Because the first one was going to college and picking a degree I knew nothing about. The second one was now, as all this was happening, I remember I was talking to a friend and he said to me, "Maria, why don't you just like go to Italy? Because I'm Italian." And he's like, "It's just so easy for you. You should just go, you know the language, all these things." I do speak Italian, ma non mi piace parlare tanto perché, no, mi piace parlare, ma sento che devo trovare le parole. Ah, no, parlo bene, capisco tutto, ma ok, così. So I speak, probably maybe one person can understand what I just said. And I remember he said kinda, like, stuck with me even though I was like, "What the frick would I do there?" Something about it just made me like, "Hmm, okay." It just stuck with me. And then I thought to myself, "Okay, well, I would probably wanna at least go to a city. I'm not gonna go to Sicily where all my family is, or most of my family." I had some in Milan, but most were in Sicily, the ones that, like, I knew very personally. But then I started thinking about Spain because one of my best friends was from Spain, and I had an uncle in Spain at the time. And I thought, I've been to Madrid. I love Madrid. What about Madrid? And then all of a sudden, here I was with this new idea. It piqued my curiosity. Loved the idea. It gave me energy, right? These are the things that I'm telling you the pattern. So what I did was the only plan that I came up with was luckily my friend's mom was a lawyer and I am pretty responsible of a person. So what I did was I wanted to talk to her and I asked her like, as somebody like me that's just graduating college, like are there like any type of job opportunities I could do? Because at this point I knew that I knew that I knew I wanted nothing to do with speech pathology. And I kind of knew that I probably would never touch it again. Like I just had this feeling. It's been 5 years, still don't think I ever wanna touch it. Let's see, I'm never gonna say never. But yeah, I knew that I wasn't going to Spain to do that, and I don't think it would have even worked anyway because of the phonetics and all. Anyways, and her mom said, "Yeah, there's actually you are a native English speaker, there's so many jobs for that." And I thought, "Alright, I'm just gonna go, that's good enough for me." I'll sort something out. So this was what, 4 months later, because I graduated in May. So May, June, July, August, September, I was on a plane going to Spain. And my only plan was looking for jobs that taught English. And I did that. I taught English for a year and I'm still in Spain now. I still love it here. It's still a country that makes me curious, that makes me excited. Madrid gives me energy. It's still flowing. It's challenged me in a healthy way. And again, it's all flowed. Like, I was actually very much so thinking about leaving Madrid after my first 9 months because when I first moved here, I lived with my friend and her family. And I knew I couldn't do that for super long, right? So I thought, don't find a better job or figure out something with housing and an apartment. I'm gonna have to go. And I will never forget my friend. Like I was really thinking I was gonna have to go. I was sad because I really loved it. But I wanna talk about this very important detail because this detail just really showed me that I was making the right choice, that things were aligned. I wasn't forcing things. But I was sad about like probably just having to leave. And my friend came into my room and she was like, my grandfather just told my mom, and my mom just told me that he wants us to move into his vacant home. I have to be silent for a minute because you have to understand what this meant. This meant I got to now be in the city because I was living in the suburbs. This meant I got to be in the city, have more time to figure out another job, and I don't have to pay rent. And my friend was also like young, looking for a job. Like, you don't understand how much this changed the trajectory of our lives. And I remember just Spain has flowed. Like even now today, I'm not in that house anymore, but Spain has flowed and it has been a place that has helped me learn, that has helped me grow, that has helped me meet the most amazing people. And I genuinely love it. But when I first made the decision to come here, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, fatal. Again, the pattern was love the idea, piqued my curiosity. Being in Spain has challenged me. It's been good for me and it's all aligned with truth and it's flowed. And I'm still here. Now, maybe in 6 months that'll change. Maybe in 6 years that will change. I don't know. This was a major life decision. It made no sense to anyone on the outside. I mean, even still to this day, most of my family still kind of gives me the look of, well, when are you going to come back though? Like, when are you going to come back? Like, what are you going to do? In Spain, like, the economy is terrible, it's a playground, whatever. And I'm like, "Mhm, mhm." Because, okay, they can think what they want, but for me right now, Spain is aligned. And again, it has done nothing but challenged me in such a healthy way and given me a freedom that I would have just never expected to find. So, yeah, again, like, the pattern is that I'm still here and I'm still I'm still loving it. Sorry, I'm looking at my transcript really quickly because I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. And that leads me to my third major decision, which leads to the how I started this podcast about saying that my financial future has now very much so changed. So, the third major decision that I made was working for my parents. So, I actually wrote a Substack about this whole journey and the why of doing it and my heart behind it. This was a really difficult decision for me. But after my first year in Spain of teaching English, I just knew I was tired of doing that. I wanted to do something different. And at the time, my mom was like, I need this new position in my company. I'm going to take a sip of my Coke Zero. And she was like, I need a blogger. I need somebody to do blogs. And I know that you kind of like writing. Would you want to be a blogger? And I was like, okay. My parents have a very interesting background with their businesses. And again, I don't want to like go into all those details of why I was very hesitant to accept this from my mom. They are in the essay that I will link below about how difficult this has been for me. I really hope I don't cry. But for some reason, I had never wanted to work for my parents. Again, these details are in the essay. But for some reason, when my mom offered me this job, it piqued my curiosity. Like it really did. And again, it felt like an idea that gave me energy. It challenged me in a healthy way. And it flowed, because right when I was looking for a job, she offered. This was the first time in her company it probably was a job I could actually do decently well even though it was a new role and I had to figure it Yeah, so again, the pattern in the beginning was clear. I liked the idea. It piqued my curiosity. It did give me energy for the 2.5 years that I did it. Well, maybe 1.5. And I was doing well. It was challenging me. And again, the pattern though was that about a year and a half, 2 years in the final stages of this decision, I just no longer was interested in it. It was draining my energy. And again, the thing that made me curious, just I wasn't there anymore. And again, the biggest clue, because I'm really trying to like make the pattern obvious with these big decisions, that this was over was that it no longer felt aligned with truth. And the only thing that was eating me alive was fear. And the reason, so I ended up working for my mom a year and a half. And then in that next year, the company actually became mine and my brother's. But the thing is, the reason that we took it on and changed all these things was because kinda like had to just for things going on with my parents. Again, I really go into all the details in my essay. I want this episode to be more about just the patterns of making these big life decisions. And I ultimately decided I wanted to leave. That, I'm happy that I helped my parents get through what I wanted to help get them through. I also ended up helping my brother in the process. It was a really good 2.5 years for me to learn a lot about art, to do a job that had no clear role, but I like made a clear role and I created a system and a process. I'm still very proud of that. Like I knew nothing about blogging and neither did my mom when she hired me. I just figured it out. Yeah, and then I started doing social media for them and it was great. But the time came when it didn't feel aligned. It was draining my energy. It was causing fighting with my family. Family businesses are really difficult. So again, when something is now draining your energy and you dread it, you know that it's time to go. But this was probably the hardest decision I've ever made of having to leave the company because if I would have stayed and worked in this company, because the company is in a growing stage and it really needed like probably 5 to 10 years of just really, really hard work to get it where it would need to be. But I have no doubts that it will get there. It's just such a good business plan and model, great company with a great mission and great products. That's why I did enjoy working for it for the time that I did. But it wasn't aligned with my life, it wasn't aligned with my values, it wasn't aligned with what I wanted out of life, right? There was nothing wrong with the company or my family, right? It was just that it didn't feel aligned and it was making me feel dead on the inside, stressed, right? It was just causing strife. And yeah, it didn't align with truth anymore. And my biggest clue that it was wrong was that it just created a lot of fear. Like, I was so fearful, but I think my biggest fear was if I leave this company, I'm basically like throwing a pretty secure economic future out the window. And that was really hard because I think we all know being young, there's no secret that right now it's harder to make money, right? The cost of salaries and the cost of living absolutely do not match. And people are struggling. And who was I, a 25-year-old girl who now was in possession of a really great company with a really great mission, and she didn't want that. Like I felt like a spoiled brat that wasn't grateful. Like that's genuinely what I felt like. But, the truth also was that it was killing me on the inside and it was causing me to fight with my family and it was just nothing but stress. And it was just so ironic though, because it gave me a lot of stability and it really did promise me a bright economic future. But I really had to make a decision of what do I care about more, a bright economic future or my family? And I wanted my family. I just wanted my mom to be I didn't wanna have this whole business in between us, and that's really what was happening, like, this whole business was in between us, but this was, I think, maybe the most and biggest decision that I've ever made, and right now, I am in the middle of it. I am recording this made this decision a month ago. So now I have no idea where I'm headed. I have no idea where my income is going to come from. I only have some time to figure it out, but not all the time in the world either. And, externally, I know my family isn't thrilled about my decision. I know everybody in my life has their opinions on it, but it was the right decision for me. And one thing that has been so consistent about this decision and what has given me like just the knowing that I did the right thing was I feel so much internal peace. Like, even though I would not have a job, I had to move, and this was all happening within 1 week, literally within 1 week, because as this happened, I also had to move. All I knew was it's going to be okay. And I had like, again, I just imagine myself on this path in the mountains, and there's like this storm is brewing. But on the inside, I'm just standing there strong and firm and knowing that it will be okay. And I still don't have a very clear direction. I think for the most part, I do know what I want, but I still have to figure out how to make money from that, like, so yeah, I think in all these scenarios of these three major decisions of my life, and there will be more, I was outsourcing my safety to my cohorts, my parents, the economy, right? Because when I told my cohorts that I was going to Spain and not grad school, they were all super kind about it, but they all were also like, I could tell they were like, what the fuck? Like, I could just tell. And they loved me. Same thing with my parents when I said I wanted to come to Spain. Like, they were supportive, but they were also like, what the fuck? Like, why are you leaving? And same thing with this decision, right? Of not being a part of my family business anymore. Like, my friends are a little bit more understanding, but my family is definitely like, what the fuck? Like, why wouldn't you want this? Right. But something that I've realized is that I don't really care if people understand me anymore. We've got to get over this whole I want to be understood thing. And maybe that sounds like tough love, but I think that is the best way to go about it because at the end of the day, how is anybody ever going to understand you? How? You have your own set of, the country you were born in, your experiences, how you see the world, your parents, the things that you've listened to. No one is going to be able to understand you. And that's something that I realized in this process. Like, why am I trying to ask so and so what they think? Like, no one understands how I feel on a daily, how I feel stressed. No one understands what my passions are, what I'm good at, what I want to do. And I shouldn't expect them to. Like when you're making big decisions like this, it's true. Like, we outsource all our safety and our thoughts to where the best money is at the job, what our mom thinks, what would our family think, right? What's the economy looking like? And those are very strong external forces. Like, I don't want to make light of how strong they are. But at the end of the day, like, what I always tell myself is I'm the one living the consequences of my life. And if there is somebody who knows this special hell of choosing a life that you don't really want, but you're choosing that decision because you're scared, that creates a very special hell and special misery within someone. And I have seen it. I've seen it countlessly. I've seen it in my personal life. I've seen it in people I've had encounters with. Like, when you think that when you make this safe decision because you're too scared to make the decision that you want, trust me, you are cutting pieces of your heart one by one. And I think the most important theme in all of these major decisions was that if I would have stuck to it, like if I would have stuck with choosing certainty, okay, I could have, but I would have been dead miserable and just fearful and regretful on the inside, knowing there was more for me. So, like, yeah, okay, externally it would have looked better. Externally, it would have looked like more money, going to a college that made sense, maybe FIT, all these things. But internally, it would have felt like crap. Whereas when I've made these decisions now, externally, I'm like, oh, what's happening? It's so uncertain. But internally, totally peaceful. Like the last 4 weeks, because I still don't really have a plan, I feel like those beautiful Roman columns at the Pantheon in Rome. Strong, firm, sure, right? Like, I don't know what's coming, but I know I'll be ready for it. And yeah, I feel like this is just really helping me create a very beautiful relationship with uncertainty. It's had me thinking a lot about what even is certainty? What even is stability? And I've thought so deeply about how nothing is stable, nothing is certain, who you're with, what you do, your health, nothing, like nothing. And part of, I think, why I'm excited to undergo what I'm about to undergo, which is making something out of nothing, is because especially with a job point of view, is it really safe to have all your money coming in from one employer and one place every month? Because what if you get laid off and you have some big ass mortgage? I don't know. I've just thought a lot deeply about these things this month. And I am very excited that now I'm outsourcing all my safety and my financial success to myself. And I trust myself. I don't know how I'll do it, but I do trust myself. That's what all these experiences and major decisions have taught is that I trust myself. And that's the most important skill I can build, trusting myself and growing. So, what I want to do now is I just want to go a little bit over the practicalities of what I did. I'm also going to have these Substack articles linked. And yeah, so I want to give you a little bit of a framework for whatever it is that you might be going through, whether it's a job transition, a relationship thing, a health crisis, whatever it may be. And I think the first thing is identify the dead energy, right? Look at your current commitments in your life. And is there dead energy anywhere? And where has the curiosity peaked for you, but the energy has vanished? I've made all these big decisions based off of something that gave me energy at the time. At the time, speech pathology gave me so much energy. At the time, and still, Spain gives me so much energy. At the time, blogging for my mother's business gave me energy, but then it didn't. I think that is one of your biggest clues. What excites you in that moment? Who knows? Maybe you'll do basket weaving for 2 years and then that's it. And then you're done because your energy will go somewhere else. I started this podcast a year ago and I really liked it, but I just realized a month ago, I actually get more energy now from writing Substack newsletters. I still enjoy, and actually, the podcast was born out of writing. It's just that I started the podcast before I started doing the newsletters, but now I'm doing the newsletters and I think I like that better. But I still want to keep up with the podcast because I still really enjoy it. And the podcast is a way for me to meet people and talk to people in these spaces, whatever. But yeah, and it might change. And then you might be like, well, did I waste time? No, because you followed what gave you energy at that moment. So, yeah, identify dead energy. And I think some of the best advice that I heard about this was from Emma Greed. And she was talking about careers and what should people do? Which direction should I take? And she said, what gives you energy? As simple as that. What gives you energy? And I just thought that was really great advice. And then I also, on an Instagram carousel, saw a quote by Reese Witherspoon. And in the quote, she quoted saying, do what you are good at. Do not go after your dream. Do what you are good at. Don't go after your dream. And I thought this is super interesting because taking it back to my college days, my dream was being in fashion. But I think what I knew in that moment when my parents were encouraging me to do it was that I wasn't good at it though. Maybe I would have been good at being a buyer, not a designer. That I knew. I think something in me knew you're not good enough at this. And I had a fashion account for 2 years on Instagram. I gave my best to, I had all the content strategy. It never grew ever. And at the end of those 2 years, I was highly disappointed, but I also kind of was like, maybe this is a sign that, okay, I do like this. I was willing to put all this effort into it, but it didn't go anywhere. And I kind of with humility was like, maybe I'm just not good enough at this. I think that can happen sometimes too. So I thought that was really great advice because it's true. A lot of people dreams, but are you actually good at it? But what I realized that I'm good at is writing. So yeah. All right. So again, identify the dead energy. Then I want you to think about the safety versus the agency check. And I want you to ask yourself, am I staying in this because it provides external certainty or because it builds internal trust? So, am I staying in this because it provides external certainty or because it builds internal trust? And I know that for my last major decision, I was staying in it because it gave me so much external certainty. It gave me my comfortable life in Spain. It gave me a bright financial future, working on my own time, right? Doing my projects whenever I wanted, organizing my day however I wanted. It was good, right? But then internally, I didn't have any trust within myself. I very much so didn't like that my income was only coming from one place. I had all these strings attached with my family. Awful. Okay. Next thing is I want to just remind you that you only need the next context clue. So you don't need against planning. But I think that sometimes you need to just take it one day at a time and you need one grounded step that will lead you to what feels like the truth for you. Like when I made this major decision now of not being in this business anymore, I just took that one step because I knew the step of quitting was right, but I don't know what the next step is. I do have my next context clue that I will keep to myself, but it's what I'm going to be working on this week. And then another big context clue I had is that I really care about the content I'm putting out. I really care about my Substack newsletter. I really care about this podcast. And that gives me so much energy. Something that has stayed consistent this last year is this podcast. It's given me so much energy. And that makes me feel like, well, then, okay, for right now, it's the right decision. So, yeah. Then I just want to leave you with like a little tiny thing to do, which is I want you to pick a specific task, but anything really that helps you rebuild self trust. I think a lot of why we stay in situations we don't really want to be in is because we don't trust ourselves to make something else happen or to do what we actually say we want to do. We think about how we want to do it, but then when it comes out in our behavior, we're not doing it. And tonight or today or whenever you're listening to this, I want you to identify one area where perhaps you are outsourcing your authority to somebody else's opinion, your safety to a job, whatever it may be. And I want you to spend 15 minutes writing down what you would choose if no one was watching. And just commit to one small action that aligns with whatever this internal truth within you is and do that. Because you can't change your life in one day, right? You have to change your life with these tiny micro steps. And you also have to change your life with the mindset of, I'm so done with my shit. So I'm changing. Like you have to be at that point. If you're not at that point, you're not going to change anything. You have to be so done with it. And I know I was so done with what I was feeling. So, yeah. And I want you to know that if you do want to make a major decision that will change your life, I'm here with you. I am literally living this right now. I don't know what my financial future is like. I feel like all I'm doing is spending money and no money's coming in, but I'm calm. I'm really, really calm and I'll sort something out. And, I've also thought through the worst case scenarios. And yeah, coolest thing though about this is that it follows the premise of my podcast, which is get in. You are driving. I'm driving. And I was allowing myself to be in the passenger seat, but it didn't last long. I'm now back in the driver's seat. And yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope this podcast episode can resonate, and I will link all those essays below. Catch you guys later.